Just 4 months after rupturing his Achilles in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the New York Knicks, Jayson Tatum is already back on the court, and he's already made an announcement that he's going to return at some point, most likely late in the 2025-26 season. How Jayson's rehab process has gone is unbelievable, as usually this injury takes 9 to 12 months for an NBA player to reach peak performance again. The Celtics will likely give it at least 9 months before Tatum's return, meaning a return in February seems plausible. Despite new ownership clearing cap by trading Jrue Holiday to Portland, trading Kristaps Porzingis to Atlanta, and also losing Al Horford and Luke Kornet, having Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White as your 1, 2, and 3, assuming you get a healthy Tatum back, and having another 4-time 17-plus point per game scorer in Anfernee Simons will make Boston a tough lower seed. Don't forget, the roster is still comprised of 6th Man of the Year Payton Pritchard, who's capable of carrying a team in scoring on a nightly basis, as well as Sam Hauser, who shot an NBA 20th best 41.6% from deep. To shore up for the losses of Horford and Kornet, as well as Porzingis, the Celtics signed former Toronto Raptor Chris Boucher, who's the Raptors' all-time leader in bench points. He may be forced to start with the Celtics' thin rotation up front, but aside from being majorly thin up front, which is why they could be a lower seed, as you can see, despite losing some key pieces in dramatic fashion, the 2024 NBA championship-winning Boston Celtics look somewhat dangerous. Boston will be especially dangerous as a lower seed, which it's looking like they'll be, given they'll be dealing with the absence of Tatum for most of the season. Everything now hinges on Jaylen Brown becoming not just a co-star, but the lead star. Brown, who's long been the second option in Boston's 2 J's tandem, will now need to shoulder offensive creation, defensive focus, and leadership responsibilities at a whole new level. He has a track record of being productive when Tatum's off the floor. In those stretches, he's shown he can produce 25-plus points, crash the glass, and facilitate in secondary roles, but to carry a full season without Tatum means adapting even more, taking more volume, more contested shots, more playmaking, and absorbing tougher defensive attention night after night. He'll need shooters to space, reliable defenders to hide on, and lineups that allow him to rest without collapse. The mental load is heavy. Opponents will dare Boston to win with just Brown, and he'll have to answer that challenge consistently. If he can elevate, he can force narratives about him being a true lead star, rather than just a high-output sidekick. This could be Jaylen's greatest opportunity to redefine his legacy. With Tatum out, he has freedom to reshape his game, push into creation more, run sets, initiate offense, and perhaps grow into a closer. Expectations will be sky high, and every failed drive or misread will be magnified. His usage will almost certainly rise. That's inevitable. But with more usage comes the risk of inefficiency, fatigue, and defensive lapses. Brown will need to keep turnovers in check, manage his body over 82, and show he can be more than just a scorer. There's also expectation that he might finally earn MVP-level consideration if he can lead Boston deep without their star. But in doing so, he'll have to rally the locker room, share scoring with secondary options, and stay consistent even through losing streaks. The success of Boston's season may depend on how well he adapts in real time, whether he becomes a walking triple threat providing scoring, playmaking, and defense, or crumbles under the burden. The signing of Chris Boucher doesn't just add depth, it's a statement of intent. When Boston traded away Kristaps Porzingis and saw Horford and Kornet move on, their front court suddenly lacked stretch bigs who could shoot, rebound, and provide second-chance opportunities. Buche brings much of that profile. His catch-and-shoot ability from deep helps restore the spacing lost with those departures, and he's a strong offensive rebounder, meaning he can generate extra possessions. In his last season with Toronto, Buche averaged about 10 points and 4.5 rebounds, while shooting nearly 36.3% from deep. That kind of production off limited minutes shows he can be more than just a role player. Given the open front court slots and the absence of traditional bigs, Buche may very well be forced into a starting role, or at least heavy minutes early. His mobility, outside shot, and experience give the Celtics a front court weapon who isn't rigid, someone who can slide between power forward or even small ball 5 in certain lineups. If Buche can stay consistent, defend adequately, and leverage mismatches, he could become one of Boston's more reliable rotation pieces this season. Then there's Anfernee Simons, acquired in the Jrue Holiday trade as Boston reshapes its backcourt. Simons has heard his name in more trade rumors, but arrives in Boston with a reputation for bucket getting. In Portland, he had established himself as a high-usage guard capable of creating his own shot, knocking down threes, and pushing pace. His arrival helps fill some of the offensive void left by Holiday's departure, especially given that the Celtics will lean more heavily on perimeter scoring without Porzingis and Holiday's interior and playmaking presence. But Simons isn't just a shooter, he's improved his playmaking and ability to shift into secondary creator mode when needed, making him more than just a one-dimensional gunner. His contract is expiring, giving Boston both upside and flexibility. If he excels, they can build around him. If not, they have an exit. In a season where many pieces are unproven, Simons' scoring punch can be a stabilizer for Boston's rotation, helping reduce pressure on Jaylen Brown to be the singular offensive driver. If Boston's new core is to hold together in Tatum's absence, Simons will need to stay efficient, manage shot selection, and defend aggressively, especially against faster guards. Together, Buche and Simons do more than plug holes. They reshape the competitive ceiling for this Celtics squad through versatility, shooting, and the capacity to open up roles for others. This Celtics season will ultimately be defined by how well they weather adversity without their franchise player. For the first time in years, Boston walks into a season without the safety net of Jason Tatum's two-way dominance for most of the schedule. That means Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla have to thread a needle, keep the team competitive enough to stay in the playoff hunt, while also giving their younger and newly acquired pieces the reps to grow. A lower seed is almost inevitable, but that also makes them one of the most dangerous wildcards in the conference. Nobody wants to face a battle-tested Boston team that suddenly reinserts Tatum in February or March and rolls out a healthy Brown, White, Simons, and a front court finally clicking with Buche. If they can keep their heads above water until Tatum returns, they might turn into the kind of lower seed juggernaut that throws the East into chaos. That looming possibility is what makes this team so intriguing. There's enough firepower to survive the storm, and enough star power waiting in the wings to make a late push. For Jaylen Brown personally, this could be the defining year of his career. He's long been praised as an elite number 2 option, but the true superstars separate themselves by leading undermanned rosters, setting the tone defensively, and producing in high-leverage moments night after night. Brown will be asked to do all of that while acting as the public face of a retooled Celtics squad, managing his own efficiency and body over an 82-game grind. If he thrives, he changes the national narrative about his ceiling, puts himself in the conversation for MVP votes, and gives Boston a stronger argument that its core can win with interchangeable stars. If he falters, Boston risks sliding down the standings and entering Tatum's return with too steep a hill to climb. The stakes for him have never been higher, but the opportunity to cement a new identity has never been greater either. This is Brown's chance to lead in a way that echoes the great Celtics wings of the past, an audition for full-blown superstardom rather than sidekick status. And finally, the impact of the supporting cast cannot be overstated. Chris Boucher's potential elevation to starter could give Boston a stretch energy big who thrives in up-tempo lineups, and Anfernee Simons' ability to create off the bounce provides the kind of instant offense that can win random Tuesday night games in January. Add in Payton Pritchard's microwave scoring and Sam Hauser's elite shooting, and Boston still fields enough spacing and firepower to survive stretches without its best player. Those aren't just patchwork additions, they're potential difference makers who can grow into their roles over the season. If each of these players leans into their strengths, the Celtics' depth may transform from perceived weakness into a hidden strength by the time the playoffs arrive. With Tatum's return looming, Boston could go from struggling to stay afloat to the team nobody wants to see almost overnight. In that sense, 2025-26 could be one of the most unpredictable but also one of the most memorable Celtics seasons in years. A campaign defined by not only survival, but by the forging of a new identity.